Could Bob Huggins actually coach again, and could it be at West Virginia? And what is Huggy Bear up to these days, and how is he doing? We're going to talk about all that right after this word from our sponsor.
This episode of Hoops from the Hills is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory today across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
What is up, college hoops fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? My name is Couz.
And my name is Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you
Hoops from the Hills, baby.
We are back. Paul is back home. I'm in a hotel again. But Couz and Paul are back with another episode of Hoops from the Hills. And I know we tell you guys our name every time, and you probably already know our name, but who cares? It's for fun. Anyway, we kind of have fun doing that intro. But what we want to get into today is the latest on the Bob Huggins situation. You know, just when things start to, we start moving on, we feel like this whole thing's behind us, his name creeps back up. But you know what? It probably always will because he's a legend, right? But yesterday, I'll kind of set the scene at the Atlantic 10 Media Day. The Field of 68, which is a college basketball podcast and YouTube show, they were live on the scene, and they were interviewing people there, and they interviewed Frank Martin, who is the coach at UMass, who's obviously in the A-10. Frank Martin is really close friends with Bob Huggins, and they asked Frank about Coach Huggins. We're going to play the clip, and we're going to probably do it in segments, but we're going to react. Paul and I are going to react to that clip and what Coach Martin had to say about Huggy and give our opinion on it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to start the clip, and then we'll stop it and react to it at certain points along the way.
He's going to get back on that saddle. It's he's clean. He when he has not had a drink since that day. That one day he'll speak about exactly what transpired that day. It's not my place to put that out there. It's a little more complicated than the story that got put out there by people that just saw the end result. And it's sad that the end of West Virginia happened the way it did. But he's in great spirits. He's lost weight. He's energetic. He's good for the game, man. He's good for people. And, you know, we're in a moment right.
All right, Paul, what are your thoughts on that first 39 seconds of this clip?
Well, I mean, first thing really prick your ears up, he's going to get back in that saddle, right?
Yep.
I think that's the number one thing that came to my ear when I heard him talk about mixed feelings. You know, I don't know how I would feel no matter where he was at if Coach Hubbs was back on the stool again, as you so eloquently made the title for this headline. You know, I think that's a great way of putting it. So, you know, I hope he does. I'm rooting for him to do it. I just wish it was here. You know, I would love for everything to be bygones, but he's 70 years old and we needed to move on anyway. And it would be great for him to maybe get one last job for 4 or 5 years. You know, maybe he could do something in another spot. You never know. I wouldn't put anything past Bob Huggins. So, at the end of the day, he is great for basketball. He is great for people. He did make a mistake. A couple mistakes there at the end that were probably all fueled by alcohol. You know, I think there's a lot of people that would say what he said on the radio show was also alcohol induced because his inhibitions were low. he probably would not have said that where he's sober at the time, because he would have been able to realize the ramifications of saying such a thing in today's cancel age. So I think there's a lot to take in from what was said there. And it's great to see that he has people supporting him, because, I think that was a lot of our biggest fear. Is he going to die like Paterno did? Because, that's what happened to Paterno. You take the one thing he's only ever known away. And for Hugs, it goes back even his childhood. His dad's a coach.
Mhm.
This is really who he is as a fabric, as a person, teaching kids, being around kids. So that was stripped away based off his decisions, and you can usually only go one or two ways when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I give my quick thoughts, everybody, I actually wrote an article about this over on my website at couzescorner.com. If you guys want to go check it out, I would appreciate that. Wanted to plug that real quick. But also, I agree with you. I would love to see him on the sidelines again. I would not, obviously, I don't want it to be at a Big 12 team that we have to play. And I think you kind of answered this question, Paul, but I'm assuming that you wouldn't want him back at West Virginia. Is that a fair assumption?
It would have to be a situation like, okay, let's say Eilert doesn't work out after 10 months and we come back around 2 Hugs. Could he be a stopgap for 2 years, 3 years, 4? Yeah. Would I be concerned about his age too? Yeah, I would. I'm not going to lie. He was already showing signs of decline just a little bit there at the end. Obviously, at 70 plus years old, you're going to have to delegate. I think he had the staff in place to do that, and he was doing that. But all those guys are here now, and I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it would be a tough choice. I would not be against it if it happened, but I would probably prefer to go another route at this point in West Virginia.
That's exactly how I feel. I know that doesn't make for an entertaining show when we agree, but I totally 100% agree with that. I would love to see Hugs finish his career on a positive note and go out the right way, hopefully successfully. But I just don't think bringing him back to West Virginia is the best thing for the program. He was here for 16 years. He brought us to heights we hadn't seen since the Jerry West era, right? And we will always love him for that. We will always love him for the wins. We'll always love him, most importantly, for the way he embraced our state, the way he loved our state, all that stuff. I mean, he is a West Virginian, man. True blue West Virginian. He bleeds gold and blue, always will. But for the betterment of the program, I think we need to get younger. I think we need to get I just think we need a breath of fresh air. We need a change, And I think Josh Eilert, if he ends up not being the guy, they need to bring somebody in that's a similar mold. It's, middle-aged or younger guy, young staff that can relate to today's players, that will embrace NIL, that will embrace the portal, all that stuff. Doesn't mean I don't love Huggins. I do. I love him. People will, I guarantee you somebody will come in the comment section and say, he is West Virginia basketball. I can't believe you'd say that. I'm not bad. I love the guy. I absolutely love the guy. He's one of my favorite people of all time. I mean, I don't know what else to say. But you got to look at what's best for West Virginia University at the end of the day, in my opinion. And I think moving on from him is the best thing at this point, because we've already headed in that direction. A lot of fans have already, I don't want to say forgotten about Huggins, but we've moved on and we've embraced Josh Eilert in the new era. And I think bringing him back in the fold just erases all of that to a degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And two, it could be very polarizing for the fan base, because there is also a large portion of the fan base that's really mad at him for what he did and would not want him back. So it would almost be, I don't want to say similar to bringing Rich Rod back, but I think it would be, kind of in that same mold. You bring him back
in the same way,
except it's, not as much time has passed, so there's still probably a lot of feelings there, But at the end of the day, I love that he's doing better. I love that he's not drinking anymore. I love the fact that he's in a good place spiritually, mentally, physically, all that stuff. That stuff made me smile, and it made me happy, because at the end of the day, that's really what's most important, is his health. Let's go ahead and play the rest of this clip, and then we'll react to the rest of it here in just a moment.
Now we're let's not beat around the bush. We got guys that have been caught doing some really stuff that go against the rules. And not that what he did is not against the rules, but that was a self-inflicted kind of deal. And you
just
can't
want him to get help.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the thing we all wanted for Hugs.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you know what? And I was part of that world. And my help came because of a health scare. And I was able to walk away at that moment. If not, I probably end up in 20 different stories doing the same things. And but I was fortunate that my help came because of that health scare. This was his moment. And he's in a great space spiritually, health-wise. I mean, you feel him on the phone. I'm bringing him out.
Let me know when he's coming.
He's running the practice. I'm putting him out there. So they think I'm bad. Wait till they deal with Hugs on the sideline.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
All right, Paul. I know you got a lot to get off your chest, man. I'm going to let you roll.
Right. Well, first and foremost, if you ain't got you a friend like Frank Martin, go get you one. This is a guy who's put his reputation, his job, almost in some senses, probably. You could say some people would say that some of these comments could be pretty polarizing. On the line for Bob Huggins, and really some of the things he's done are really minimalistic in nature. And one thing I would say that I loved about it was he talked about being a part of that world. Basically, he was around about saying was, hey, I drank and I was an alcoholic too. And I had a health scare and had to walk away. The thing he probably doesn't recognize is that there are levels to this. There's levels to addiction and alcoholism. Bob Huggins had his health scare. He didn't walk away. So there's difference, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. This is one subject I'm unfortunately versed on. You get into the minimalistic nature of what he was saying there. And he talked about there's other people doing really bad things. I'm sorry, man. Drinking and driving is a really bad thing, whether it hurts someone or not. That's like the most ridiculous way to look at drinking and driving. Well, nobody got hurt. So, it's really self-inflicted. Come on. So that's number one. Number two is it's not self-inflicted. He has a family. He's got a wife. He's got a daughter who was all in the news because of everything that happened and the way it happened. Somebody I know that did not get paid like they were supposed to get paid because of certain promises that were in place along with Coach Huggins, that it was on the basketball staff. There's a lot of things that happened as a result of this. We lost how many players to the transfer portal that wouldn't have freaking went had this not happened? So I don't want to hear the bullshit about that it's a self-inflicted thing, because it's really not. It's in anything, in my opinion, otherwise is you're just trying to play a different way.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And he also minimalized how much it affected the university, or could have affected the university. First and foremost, and this is a point that a lot of people glossed over in this whole situation. Bob Huggins was driving a vehicle owned by West Virginia University or the state of West Virginia, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
They were on the hook for that. Had he had an accident and killed somebody, guess who else would have gotten sued and cost millions, and if not hundreds of millions of dollars? West Virginia University would have been on the hook for that. So you've got the reputation of the university. That's, our university is already struggling. We're $45 million in the red. They're having to cut courses out, lay people off. The last thing they needed was a hit to their reputation. Right. And they had already had that 6 weeks earlier with his comment on the radio. Whether that was a big deal or not to the person listening to this or us is irrelevant. He was already on thin ice anyway. He had already put the university's reputation in the public eye in a negative way. And the university, if you don't have kids enrolled in that school, that's how they make money at the university. That's how they pay their professors. That's how they pay their employees. They got to have enrollment. And anything they do that can impact that enrollment is bad. And you talk about advertisers that might want to advertise at games or whatever. It all, at the end of the day, it comes down to the bottom line, man. And that stuff like that can impact the bottom line. Everybody wants to talk about how college athletics is about money. That kind of thing affects that. Okay.
It does.
So I agree with you. The university also was impacted by that, or could have been, right? And, but from Frank Martin's perspective, even though I totally understand and agree with your point that he was minimalizing it, you've got to look at it from the perspective of somebody who's extremely close with. They're like, I mean, they're tight. They're Bob Huggins is basically the guy who got him where he's at today. So he's extremely biased in this situation. Okay, he's probably not looking at this from any other side of the coin. Unfortunately, he's looking at it straight from Bob Huggins' perspective. He probably hasn't even heard West Virginia University side of the story. Okay,
right.
So we've got to take that into account when listening to these comments. That he's totally giving us one side of the story here, or if you want to look at it that way.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but that's not really my issue at all. Like with that, like the story, because there is a lot more to it we don't know about as far as what exactly happened there. Was it Gee? Was it Gee enforcing his will and everybody else? There's a lot of people that think that he really pushed Hugs out and didn't give him the position he asked for, even if he were to be fired.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going into that. And I do think that more will eventually come out about that we'll probably side with Hugs on. I do think that the way everything happened was not true all the way fair to him, although I disagree with what he did and how he did it. Listen, I've said before, if I got caught for everything I did when I was doing the same kinds of things, I'd probably be buried under the jail, So everybody, has things that they're not proud of that they did. But the expectation level for somebody in Bob Huggins' position, who is probably the highest paid employee in the state, is just different. It just is. And that's unfortunately where rubber meets the road in these situations is, as the old saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And that's truly what it is in this situation. And I understand I agree with you, by the way, about Frank Martin and his position personally. It's just that you're hurting people who have had people die in wrecks, who might see that, people who have people close to them have died from alcoholism. When you minimize exactly what happened there. I know you can't bash your buddy on TV. I'm not saying you do that.
I agree with you.
But you don't say that it's only affecting him either.
Here's something else I just thought about, Paul, that I had not thought of yet. And as you were talking, I'm thinking about this. Frank Martin has one of his players sitting beside him as he made that statement.
Yeah.
What does that very impressionable young man think? My coach just said that a DUI is not that big of a deal.
Right.
Is that not how you can interpret that?
You could.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm sure that young man's smart enough to understand that ain't what he was intending. But but he but like you said, he minimalized it. Right. Like there's a lot of worse things and yes, murder is worse. I'm not saying but had he killed someone, would we be looking at him as a murderer? You know
what's worse? That's what I was trying to figure out. What's worse, giving a recruit some money illegally? Is that worse? You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. What's worse?
Right. A lot of that
but he started it by measuring what Couz did up against other things coaches are being called for, which he didn't go into.
Right.
It's just not a good look. I
agree.
You don't have to say that it's not so bad because of this or that. Just take accountability. Yeah. And that's where true healing begins. If Hugs has people around him that's going to enable him, or because listen, even Hugs as an alcoholic probably was in some denial about how bad he was, right? Yeah. So you got to have people that's really going to shoot straight to you. You can't have You can't have people that are going to not hold you accountable. It just won't work. And the addiction will win out every time, and you will take the easy way, as long as there are people around you that will allow that. Now, I'm not saying any of that's happening. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm just.
I get it. Theoretical. So, I mean, but anyway, we just wanted to bring you guys this information, give you our thoughts on the statements that were made by Frank Martin, the good, the bad, the ugly. Glad Hugs is doing better. Glad to see that he's, still has a fire and passion to be involved in the game of basketball, that he's not leaving the game of basketball. However, Paul and I both agree that it's probably not the best thing for West Virginia to bring him back. However, we do think it's great if he gets back into coaching somewhere.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a Big 12 school.
Be great.
Visual, right? That would be,
Yeah.
that would suck to see him on the other
It
side.
would. It would not want to go up against those defenses.
No. But anyway, guys, please don't forget there's a thumbs up button right below here. You can hit that thumbs up button. Like the video if you liked it. And yes, I have an Apple MacBook now, and it gives you a thumbs up signal when you do the thumbs up. Pretty cool. Or you can hit the thumbs down button if you think this video sucks. You can do that too. I don't know if it'll do that or not. But anyway, you can make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't yet, we need to get to 2,000 subscribers. I say need. We would like to get to 2,000 subscribers. We're on the cusp of college basketball season. We're going to be bringing you more and more content as we get closer, obviously, and get through the season. And then, obviously, leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. There's some of you out there who may disagree with Paul and I on some of this. Feel free to let us know if you agree, disagree. Would you like to see Hugs back at West Virginia? Y for yes, N for no. Paul, any last words before we part?
I love Hugs. I know a lot of that sounded harsh, but it really was just what Frank Martin said that angered me a little bit there.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. Totally understand it. Man in his position probably shouldn't be making those kind of comments. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
With that being said, guys, we thank you for tuning into this episode of Hoops from the Hills. And with that said, this episode is over. We are out of here.